Welcome in, everybody. Happy to talk about the Houston Texans today, coming in at number 8 on my 2025 NFL season preview and my power rankings before the season gets underway. This is a team that has gone to the division round in back-to-back seasons. You could argue, obviously the most impressive and successful portion of the Houston Texans' existence in franchise history. And it makes sense. They have a true franchise quarterback in CJ Stroud. Obviously, they thought that they had one previously, and that went by the wayside as they traded him away. Now they have made this gamble effectively with CJ Stroud, and in the same draft, a franchise staple in Will Anderson Jr. to add to that defense. And those two young guys have been the founding pieces alongside Derek Stingley Jr., who has gotten his extension as well this offseason, rightfully so, as the foundational pieces of the young core as far as the Houston Texans is concerned. And it's a team with a lot of hope, a team with a lot of I should say expectations of what it's going to look like. And I will say it's a team, and people may disagree with this, but I think they're doing it the right way. D'Amico Ryans and what he's been able to do from a defensive head coach standpoint is going to be a question mark. But I thought he's done a great job. Again, continuing to get this team to continue to push in the right direction, overcoming some of the stuff that they were going through last year as far as the offensive scheme being poor and the offensive line having consistent struggles, the defense being what it has been, which is an elite level unit as well. And, CJ Stroud kind of being a steady force at the quarterback position too. And I know people are going to be, a little bit down on CJ Stroud coming off of what was a really good rookie year and saying, hey, he didn't play as well last year. On tape, I thought that he was really good. And so ultimately, where this team direction is, again, doing it the right way, the way that they're building this and building towards trying to be a true contender in the NFL as well. And so as far as the head coaching grades, I give D'Amico Ryans a B. There may be some limitations as far as picking the offensive coaching staff. We'll see how that improves. But I think from a leadership perspective, it definitely passes the test as far as that aspect. And as far as the front office for an hour, C+. I think they've done a really good job at being able to manage their assets in a responsible manner. Have they taken the swings to get over the top? We will find out soon enough, in my opinion, with what turns out of this 2025 NFL draft class for the Houston Texans. So with that all being said, off-season in review. Let's get to it. So a big offseason in review graphic, to say the least, with all the moves that the Texans made. Stephon Diggs ends up moving on after what was an injury for him last year. Never really found the traction, obviously, due to that injury within this offense. LAREMY, TUNSIL, longtime left tackle for the Texans, ends up getting traded to the Commanders for a good haul. Really nice addition of draft picks for them to use up. Shaq Mason ends up getting released. Kendrick Green and Kenyon Green also released. And you talk about that's 4 offensive linemen from last year's room. That was not good. It was a terrible offensive line. Understandable why they wanted to clean house. And some people will have question marks as far as LAREMY TUNSIL being a part of that. We'll talk about that in a bit. Robert Woods, veteran wide receiver, moves on. Jerry Hughes, veteran defensive end, moves on. Devin White at the linebacker room and Jeff Okudah at the cornerback room also moving on. Cam Robinson added to this team to provide some depth in the tackle room. Sheldon Rankins adding to the interior defensive line. Laken Tomlinson also added to the offensive line for what this team is going to look to do in the Laken Tomlinson added to this offensive line for this team is going to do from a guard perspective. Same thing for Ed Ingram coming over from Minnesota. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson also comes over from the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Christian Kirk traded for from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trent Brown out of the offensive line room. Ronald Darby from the cornerback room also added Braxton Berrios to be wide receiver depth / special teams return guy as well. And then as far as the draft is concerned, a draft that I really like. They traded out of the first round, ended up at the top of the second round to be able to grab JAYDEN HIGGINS, wide receiver out of Iowa State, a guy that is big, athletic, a guy that really pairs well on the outside with what Nico Collins brings to the table. It's going to be interesting to see how all those guys will work together alongside Christian Kirk and, of course, Jalen Noel, who I'll get to and skip over ERSERY for right now. Jalen Noel, a guy that I actually liked more than JAYDEN HIGGINS, but again, worthwhile day 2 wide receiver prospect. More of the speedy guy, shifty, able to create separation as well. A guy that honestly I liken a lot to Tank Dell, but maybe just a little bit bigger as well. Maybe a little bit taller. Tank Dell's a little bit more well built. It's going to be interesting to see what all these wide receivers do. And of course, Tank Dell, you're praying for a speedy recovery from that kid as well. AIREONTAE ERSERY is going to be this team's starting left tackle from day 1 out of Minnesota, local Kansas City kid. A product that I liked a lot. I thought that he was the last of of the tackles that would have a chance to start day one. And it sounds like he's really come in and played above his skis as well. And I looked at the tape from preseason, he looked good. I like him as a prospect and what he can provide as far as that is concerned. So we'll talk about him in a bit. Jalen Smith as well added to this team to be able to bring in on the defensive side as far as the cornerback depth. Woody Marks within the running back room. It's going to be interesting what this running back room will look like to start out the season. We'll talk about that in a bit as well. And then Jalen Reed, safety, that is going to be fascinating to see if he can get on the field, given the safety depth on this team. But at the very least, at least special teams depth is that in that aspect as well. So with all that being said, as far as the actual expectations for the Houston Texans in 2025, they've gone to the divisional round in back-to-back seasons. I think that obviously to win the AFC South is a fair standard to say. It's honestly a baseline at this point, given some of the competition there. I think the expectation should be to win the AFC South and be right back in the divisional round. I think that they can make a real argument to say that at the baseline, they are the fourth best team in the AFC, and they should be a part of that Final Four ultimately with a chance to be in the AFC Championship game. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about CJ Stroud. So the thing that made me really believe in CJ Stroud coming out of Ohio State was his ability to deliver the ball within structure with incredible accuracy, pinpoint accuracy, in my opinion. A lot of people talked about the weapons around him at Ohio State really elevating him. And I was like, yes, but you can see his ball placement is awesome. And I thought that was the thing that was going to carry him through as a quarterback prospect. And you saw that on a consistent basis his rookie season from the day that he stepped in. And you've seen it, in my opinion, last year on tape as well, throwing into tight windows of the intermediate areas of the field. And the fact that, that the things around him didn't work out because the offensive line play, especially due to the offensive system and the rules in place were terrible, he still mitigated a lot of that by being able to do those things on tape. And so I know people were down on him a little bit more. I still have him as a top 10 quarterback. He comes in seventh in my quarterback rankings. I still believe him as a true franchise guy, a difference-making guy that can elevate the rest of the offense. And I think he did that last year. Even though this offense wasn't ranked all that highly, I still think that he made this a functional offense in ways in which it would have been without him. And so him and Nico Collins have a really good combination of how they hook up. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, how they add to this wide receiver room, and Christian Kirk as well. Hopefully they get some good wide receiver play. I expect them to have a bounce back third year in this system coming up this year with a much better offensive infrastructure in place, in my personal opinion. So with that being said, let's get to the roster around CJ Stroud. So as far as this offense is concerned, I'm going to save the offensive line for last as we can talk about some of the changes there. But let's start with the weapons, obviously. And Nico Collins, again, true number one wide receiver, in my opinion, a top 6 guy in the National Football League. Really good wide receiver as far as this team is concerned. And again, when he's healthy and out there, he can produce with the best of them because of where CJ Stroud likes to get in the ball. As far as those deep end breakers, he's really good going down the field too, and a guy that obviously can play outside on a consistent basis. Talked about Jaden Higgins, seems like to be the outside complement to him. Christian Kirk on the inside. I like the synergy as far as these 3 guys. Jalen Noel being a guy that can obviously come in for any one of those guys and then provide a little bit of deep threat and explosiveness as well, and then create some things with the ball in his hand. It's going to be fascinating to see how they choose to deploy him. Justin Watson, Xavier Hutchinson, useful backups there. Justin Watson also more of a special teams guy. Braxton Berrios, a return guy as well for the wide receiver depth chart. Quarterback-wise, Davis Mills got an extension to be the backup to C.J. Stroud. Tight end-wise, Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover provide, the tight end combination. Unfortunately, Brevin Jordan got hurt again. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Cade Stover played with C.J. Stroud at Ohio State. Is there synergy going to allow Cade Stover to try and see some stuff from Dalton Schultz, or is it going to be the veteran there? Something to watch early on in the season. The running back room is kind of a mess. Joe Mixon has an undisclosed, kind of under talked about foot injury that is ultimately going to keep him out at least for the first month, and could continue to be worse. Obviously, he's up there in age. After that, it's Nick Chubb, who didn't look like nearly himself in Cleveland last year, and he's trying to come back from that injury. Damian Pierce, who's kind of, coming out of Florida, never really lived up to his billing. Dario Ngubawale behind him, and then Woody Marks out of USC brings the receiving chops that you would want, but not really that great of a running back. And it's going to be really interesting to see where they try and figure it out and piece together with Joe Mixon while he's out, and if he ends up coming back looking like himself as well. That being said, as far as the offensive line is concerned, it can't be worse than it was last year. And I think by the ability of having better pass protection rules, that will help out a lot. Again, AIREONTAE ERSERY, I like him. I liked him coming out. Cam Robinson's useful swing tackle as well. Titus Howard and Blake Fisher, how that ends up working around is going to be something to watch as far as the right tackle position is concerned. Lincoln Tomlinson coming over from Seattle as far as being able to guard. Yeah, Juice Scruggs behind him can win that. Can he step up? Can Jared Patterson step up? It's going to be interesting. Ed Ingram coming from Minnesota and Jake Andrews, like, there's a lot of different question marks as far as this offensive line is concerned, but it is a little bit of there's only one way to go, and that's up as far as this room is concerned. So we'll see about what this offensive line looks like, particularly in my opinion, a better offensive system, and that's going to be a big thing. So I got this offense rated at a B minus, and so now we can flip over to the defensive side of the ball. So, as far as this defense, you got obviously the headliner, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, elite pass rushing duo coming off of the edge. Derek Barnett, useful veteran as well. Daryl Taylor, useful veteran as well, but depth at that edge position too. And then Sheldon Rankins and Mario Edwards on the interior. Tim Settle, they got enough run stuffing. Fatukasi as well. They got enough run stuffing guys they can put out there as necessary, and then they got guys that they can really try and supercharge or put out a quote unquote NASCAR package for them interior rush when they get you into some longer downs and distances, and that's something to watch out for as well. Linebacker room, it's tough. Like outside of Zia here, and I'll talk about him in a second. Christian Harris, EJ Speed, Tuoto, it's not great. That second level is a question mark. But if Aziz is there, then things fall into place as far as that linebacker room. He may be quite possibly the most important player on this defense for the fact that they don't really have an option at that second level outside of him, in my opinion, as well. Cornerback room, really good. Derek Stingley Jr., top 5 corner in the National Football League. Kamara Lassiter stepped up last year to be a really physical corner. That was a lot of fun to watch. I think he could even take another step, after coming in out of Georgia and being good from this first season. Jalen Petrie and the nickel is a really dangerous player as well. Then you get to the safety position. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, obviously Petrie factoring in at the safety position as well. And then Kalen Bullock as well, and what he brings to the table too, man. It's a dangerous secondary. They hit. They are fast. They know how to cover. They will turn the ball over on you. That secondary with what this pass rush also looks like, it is a tough combination, and that's why, in my opinion, this is the best defense in football, and they get an A+ grade from me. I love what they bring to the table, and I love the mentality that they play with that starts from D'Amico Ryans on down. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get to my first breakout player. A player for the 2025 Houston Texans is, in fact, Mr. Kalen Bullock, safety. And he's probably the most under talked about member of this Houston Texans safety room. I thought what you saw from him last year was really impressive in being able to cover space on the back end. And again, when you're talking about a defense that can do what they can, when they have the pass rush that they do, they can send extra guys if they so choose. The fact that they can bring out the interior defensive lineman in a NASCAR aspect to be able to get after your quarterback. And then they have the coverage guys on the back end that you're talking about as far as Derek Stingley is concerned, Kamar Lassiter is concerned, Petrie in the nickel spot. Now having Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to add to that versatility. I think the quarterbacks are going to have a tough time trying to find open guys to throw to, and you're going to see a lot of mistakes that Kalen Bullock, who has incredible range on the back end and good ball skills, is going to be able to take advantage of as well. And he's a good tackler. I think that people are going to be surprised by the ball production that Kalen Bullock ends up having in this upcoming season. I think that he can have an 8, 9, 10 interception season that, variance goes his way, but at the very least, I think it'll be 7. And I think he'll end up, being one of the more talked about safeties in the National Football League for what he's able to do on the back end. So, that is my first breakout player for the Houston Texans. Again, what I expect to be the best defense in the National Football League. Let's get to what's got me excited for the 2020. Let's talk about what's got me excited. So let's talk about this kid out of Minnesota, AIREONTAE ERSERY. I am going to be very excited to see what he can bring to the left tackle position. And look, LAREMY TUNSIL was a good left tackle for the Texans for a long time. Great at times. Specifically last year, I thought that he came back down as far as his level of play is concerned. And I talked about this during the Commanders segment, that there were some question marks as far as him in the locker room, and also with both Greens along the offensive line, Shaq Mason as well, that something was just not gelling as far as that room was concerned. And it became a toxic environment, according to some reports as well, put out by Albert Breer. The fact that the Texans cleaned house, got everybody out of there, and now brought in different guys to try and build up this offensive line, And given the fact that they're going to have better pass protections and rules in place, have me encouraged to see what this offensive line looks like, starting with this kid at left tackle. Again, what I saw on tape was somebody that moved extremely well, understood how to use his hands, played with very good balance, understood also when some blitzes were coming his way and were prepared for them accordingly, which also goes into the coaching portion of this. I liked him a lot out of Minnesota. He is a really good athlete for the position. And again, being able to protect CJ Stroud's blind side so that he has time to get the ball down the field to Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, and obviously Nico Collins is going to be a key piece of this offense. You move people in the run game pretty well too. So everything that I saw from him during preseason makes me encouraged about what he's going to be able to bring to the left tackle position. And if he's able to keep CJ Stroud out, Brett, I think the rest of this offense is going to be in a good place. Now, look, the rest of the offensive line is obviously a little bit of a question mark, but if this kid comes in, locks down the left tackle position, that makes everything else a lot easier to plan off of as well. So, hey, best of luck to AIREONTAE ERSERY. I like what I saw out of preseason. He's got me excited to watch this offense that hopefully will have a functioning line, unlike last season. With that being said, let's get to my concern. So as far as my concern for the 2025 Texans, the ability to use Joe Mixon obviously is off the table to start out this season, and so the running back room is a question mark. Nick Chubb, obviously, again coming off of what was a disappointing, I guess return, but the fact that he even was playing football was impressive, and now he moves on to Houston here. He can still be a solid enough, I guess, road grader, and has the ability to run the ball in between the tackles effectively a little bit, but he's not the difference making back that he obviously once was. Is he starting caliber back? I wouldn't say that either. And then you talk about, hey, Damian Pierce, again, not really a starting caliber back either. Dari obviously is a little bit more of a special teams guy, and then Woody Marks brings the receiving talent. So it's a weird mishmash of running backs that currently are on the roster, healthy, obviously. And can they get enough out of this run game is going to be a question mark, given the fact that they can try and say that the scheme aspect of what this run game is going to look like is improved. Can you hang your hat on what the offensive line is going to bring to the table? That's going to be tough. And then if you can't have a difference making back behind them, then you're talking about there's a lot of limitations for this run game. It would put a lot on CJ Stroud's shoulders from that aspect too. So that's going to be the biggest thing for me. Running back room is a huge question mark for what this offense is going to look like, and subsequently what this running game is going to look like. Let's go ahead and get to my hot take. So my hot take is centered around Mr. Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. And look, I just got a super cut of these guys sacking quarterbacks last year because they were destroying tackles on a consistent basis. These two are the best edge rush duo in the National Football League for good reason. Will Anderson Jr. came in his rookie year and it was a pretty good pass rusher, really good against the run, and then took it to a different level where, in my opinion, he's the top end edge in the National Football League. Same thing for Danielle Hunter. He's also top end, in my opinion. He came over from Minnesota where he was really good there, and now paired with the rest of this Texans defense, look like I think he's taking this game to a different level to be a great one as well. The pressure that these guys provide from the edge, where they can both play with speed to power, they can both get around the edge and bend the corner as well. They can rush from different levels as needed, and also go straight through your tackles if needed to push the pocket. It's just incredibly tough to deal with two guys that are this athletic, understand how to rush the passer and get off blocks very quickly and disengage from blocks very quickly. And then you add on top of it the fact that the interior defensive line also boasts some good pass rushers as well. And then the secondary brings that really good coverage. That's why I think that this is the best defense in the National Football League. And look, they have the athleticism also where they will track you down if you try and get outside the pocket. It's not going to be easy to get away from either one of these guys, and they will be coming after you all game long. So your tackles better be ready to come to the table and be able to block either one of these guys. Otherwise, it's going to be a long game trying to block Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., who are the best edge rush duo in the National Football League. With that being said, let's go ahead and get to the predictions. Far as the predictions are concerned, look, I think that this is going to be one of the better teams in the AFC, point blank period. I think they're going to win the AFC South. My bold prediction is also going to sound a little bit, kind of soft, but I think that this is going to be a better offensive line than last year. And you get rid of LAREMY TUNSIL, that seems like something that's going to be impossible. I think that AIREONTAE ERSERY will equip himself well at left tackle. They'll be better with their pass protection rules, and ultimately they will perform better overall in trying to keep CJ Stroud a little bit cleaner than he was last year as well. And so with that being said, I got them at a 12-5 record, winning the AFC South and having themselves a really good year. So thank you guys so much for coming by to the Texans 2025 NFL season preview. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace out. Please make sure that you guys like this video. Please subscribe to the channel here at DMW Sports here on YouTube. We're at Twitter and TikTok at DMW Sports.